Hola amigos, Jim and Mai here from Spanish and Go, your resource for learning real-world travel Spanish. And today we're here with our friend Jen from Jen on a Jetplane.
Hello.
So Jen is a blogger, and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
My name is Jen Ruiz, and I write at jenonajetplane.com. I write about solo female travel, and I used to be an attorney, but now I live this much more fascinating, wonderful life.
Nice. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about why some Puerto Ricans leave the island, and especially why people are starting to come back.
And before we do that, before we get into like the details of the whys, why don't you tell us about yourself? Where were you born? All of that, yeah.
Sure. So I was born here in Puerto Rico. I was born in Bayamon, and I lived here until I was 6 years old, at which point my family moved to the United States. We moved first to Maryland, then to Philadelphia, and now my family lives in New York. I think it was very difficult for my parents to find opportunities here work-wise. My mom was a teacher, and the salary just didn't have as much potential as the salaries did in the U.S., so we decided to go and to try to chase opportunity in the U.S. And I am so grateful because I have had a lot of wonderful experiences that I think I wouldn't have been privy to if I had been here on the island. But now I'm very happy to be able to come back and rediscover the island as an adult.
That's great. Wow. Yeah. It's really interesting to me that there's about 3 million Puerto Ricans on the island, but I've always heard that there are about 5 million Puerto Ricans living in the United States. That's interesting. I should say the States. I always say the States because someone's going to comment, don't you know that Puerto Rico is part of the United States? Of course. And I think that's part of the reason why people leave, right? Because they have that opportunity here.
Correct. So many people just think that it's a better way to find opportunities, to make a career, to actually have a good salary and provide for your family. At least I know that for me and for my family that was the impetus for us moving. I know that's not the case for everyone, and people have many reasons why they decide to move, but for us it definitely was in search of something more, and I think we found that in the States. But there's always a sense of nostalgia and a sense of missing what the island has that you really just can't replicate anywhere else.
Yeah, we hear a lot of people talk about missing the coquis when they leave the island.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, I don't know if maybe for you, but do you think for your parents, was it difficult to transition into like the cultural differences between here and the mainland? What did you ever hear your mother complain about something that she missed?
Yes, I think all the time there's definitely a sense of we don't have the same kind of thing. So bread, the pan sobao, sobao, is it sobao? They have it now in Walmart, and oh my God, my family goes crazy for that bread. They get it from Walmart, and it's gone the next day, and it's a pretty big loaf, but they eat it like it's just nothing, because I think there's that sense of like we can't get that really good bread here. I think in general, my mom, I think you were the one that when we were last year in Puerto Rico, you were talking a lot about the mangoes by the side of the road.
Yes.
And I was telling my mom about it, and she was like, she wanted to talk to me about all the different species of mangoes and which ones you could find where. And I'm like, I was just relaying a story. Mai was really excited. She said you could eat all the mangoes. But she really got, excited about the prospect of talking mangoes and the prospect of talking fruit that you find on the ground that is your nourishment for the day, which is, I think, what I found funny, because you were like, there's so much food on the ground and no one's picking it up. And so I told my mom that too. And she's like, that's how we used to eat. Like we would just stroll home and we would pick up fruit on the way, and that was our food. So I think that those are aspects that she does miss, and I think tries to replicate, trying to have a garden and things like that. And just recently they've actually been looking into buying property and moving back to the island in retirement.
Well, yeah, so a lot of people know that Puerto Rico is in a state of debt, in a state of despair after Maria in a lot of ways. And I think, that has to have something to do with why some people leave. A lot of people left the island right after Hurricane Maria. But people have been leaving for years. I think the population has been declining, from what I understand, in Puerto Rico since 2011.
I would say to that end, first, Puerto Rico is very resilient. This is definitely not the first hurricane Puerto Rico's had. It won't be the last. Right. And everybody has kept going, like if you look around, when you look outside, I mean, right now we're sitting here overlooking this beautiful city, and it's bustling. You see cars everywhere. People are going about their life. They're not just resigned thinking, oh no, tragedy struck, life is over. Like, okay, tragedy struck, now life has to move on.
Right.
And I do think that Puerto Rico is primed to come back bigger and better than ever, because at the time that this happened, it was going to be the vacation spot, you know.
Yeah.
Despacito was on the Billboard charts, and people from, you know, Central Asia all of a sudden knew where Puerto Rico was, which nobody knows where Puerto Rico is
Right.
once you travel outside a certain place. Also, no one ever wants to leave the island, and I think that's a really important point to note. And like, people maybe feel they have to leave, but they definitely don't want to, and they definitely do so with the intention of coming back at some point. You know, my mom left when she was in her early 20s to be a teacher, and now looking at retirement now in her 60s, like, this is where she wants to be.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. We've read the comments from a lot of you guys who watch the channel here, a lot of Puerto Ricans mentioning leaving to find a better life, as you were saying, finding ways out of poverty, finding more opportunities, getting away from drugs and crime. That's not something we've seen on the island, but we've definitely heard from many people that it is an issue here. But what's interesting is a lot of Puerto Ricans are starting to decide to come back, especially entrepreneurs. And I think that's really fascinating. I see this as a place with so much potential that anybody who wants to come back should come back, because there are things with the infrastructure that are actually getting better than they ever were before, like the internet, like cell phone coverage on the island, things that really help entrepreneurs here on the island. So we wanted to talk to you a little bit about why you came back. And I'm sorry, I should have introduced you not as a blogger, but as an author and a TEDx speaker. So my apologies.
That's okay. Thank you. I think that there is a lot of opportunity here. So personally, for me, when I transitioned from law to travel writing, I really was looking for a space where I could speak with authority about something, but also provide new information. And I realized that there are so many people that want to know about Puerto Rico, but the information out there is very limited, and usually just to that perimeter of San Juan. Like, you can find everything you need to know about Old San Juan, where you can get the best paleta, whatever the case may be, but you're going to have a hard time finding information about finding the Pink Lakes, like you and I went to go see in Cabo Rojo, or even the Bio Bay, which is pretty world famous, but there was nothing on that, you know, like your video, I think, was one of the first videos that actually captured it, because it's just not covered. And so for me, that was really exciting as a content creator to come to a place where there was so much room for growth and room for discovery and room for sharing these amazing things with people that had no idea they even existed. But I think for entrepreneurs in general, it's when I had the opportunity to live anywhere, which is what an entrepreneur does. You can live wherever you want, and you're trying to consider where's the best quality of life for me. It was really important for me to live somewhere that was warm. And so Puerto Rico, maybe a little too warm. My hair normally does not look like this. It's normally so much sleeker and nicer and beautiful. I unfortunately did wake up like this. But there's so many things that this island has to offer. So it's warm year round. The apartments are actually pretty affordable. I was looking before I ended up where I was, and there was places for $500 that you could rent if you're looking for a 1-bedroom. There's really good, like, undiscovered artisans and restaurants and like these amazing small businesses that you can support and be a part of, and like meet the owners right then and there because they're in the shop, you know?
Yeah. And the culture is so rich here, and that's really interesting to me. I love going around and, as you mentioned, seeing the artisans, seeing the rich history, the rich cultural history here, and the diverse and rich cultural history, because there are people who have come here over the last 100, 200 years from all over the place.
Absolutely. So no one ever thinks I look Puerto Rican, but there's no such thing as looking Puerto Rican, right? Because that's so varied. Like, there's so many different influences. You have the European influences, you have the African influences, you have the native influences here from the Tainos, and everybody just blends together. And that's what makes it so that our food is so delicious and well seasoned, so that our music is so vibrant and like the best collection of everyone, you know? Like, reggaeton was hip hop and reggae. Those are two really great genres, and we put them together.
Oh yeah, and some huge musicians have come out of Puerto Rico.
And there's a strong sense of pride. That's the other thing. So a lot of people that leave the island still feel 100% connected to it, and they still carry with them throughout generations that sense of like Puerto Rican pride. I don't know anybody else that like has as many flags as we do. Like, when you look around Puerto Rico, like, you'll see more Puerto Rican flags on a random day than you'll see American flags on 4th of July.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane, the pride that there is for that.
So another thing I wanted to know was, is the reason why you moved back to the island related to any of the Act 22 or Act 20? Because I think that's a huge reason for a lot of business owners to come here. And I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. I feel like there's a lot of people who move here just for that reason, just because they want to take advantage of the tax benefits, and they never like interact with the culture. They don't even care about learning the language. They don't even care about like making friends with their neighbors, or experiencing the culture and learning from the people on the island. So I have this idea that not every entrepreneur coming to Puerto Rico has that in mind. Not everyone coming back to Puerto Rico has like the Act 2022 or the tax benefits in mind, like their main reason why they're coming here.
So I didn't even know about the tax incentives. It sounds kind of ignorant, and as an attorney, I should know. I know that I'm definitely here in Puerto Rico for at least the foreseeable future, at least the next couple of months. But I don't know if I'll be here forever. And I think that was also a big reason why, even after I found out about the tax incentives, I've been hesitant to try to take advantage of them, because I didn't want to go through all of that trouble of getting something set up if I was going to be moving back to Florida or maybe trying a different place. I think it's great that people can, but I personally am not, and it wasn't a factor that played into part for me when choosing to come here.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And I also wanted to add that, like, you shouldn't feel bad for wanting to move to a place where you feel like you're gonna have a better life. Like,
Yeah, I
you
was gonna
shouldn't
say.
feel guilty about it. You shouldn't feel, or you shouldn't make people feel guilty about their decision for moving. Like, you want a better life for yourself and your family, right? It's like, go look for it, and whatever it is that you're gonna find it, make that place your home.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention, so you've got like 3 books now?
I
Is
do.
that- Wow. And you're working on a 4th.
I am, yes.
Wow.
So the first 3 books, the first one was about finding affordable flights. I would, when I was a lawyer, the only way I could afford to travel was by finding really, really cheap flights, because I worked in nonprofit law, so we didn't make big bucks. And I found deals like a $38 flight to New Zealand, a $16 flight to Ecuador, just all these really great deals. And people were like, oh my God, how are you getting these? So I put it together, and that was my first book. It's called The Affordable Flight Guide.
Awesome.
My second book was on trying to help people just feel bad for all these poor people who just think they never have time to travel, and they are enslaved and working in this horrible American culture that we have that values that and values people never using their sick days or never using their vacation days and just working nonstop. So I wrote my second book about how to find time to travel with a full-time job. And then my third book was for women that are traveling the world solo, because I travel the world solo, and not necessarily with a tour, just by yourself. Book your reservations, get a car, and go see. So it's called the Solo Female Travel Book.
Fantastic. Awesome. And people can find those on
Amazon.
Awesome. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Jen's books, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more travel and Spanish tips. And remember,
El camino es el destino.
the journey is the destination. Nos vemos pronto.
Adiós.